So I'd like to introduce and welcome our guest speaker today, Paul Jaffe. Paul he studied with numerous masters of Zen, Tibetan Buddhism, and insight meditation traditions. He's been practicing meditation since 1972 and teaching meditation since 1980. His meditation experience began with a 5-day retreat with Joshu Sasaki Roshi, and he later practiced with Uchiyama Kosho Roshi in Kyoto, Japan, and spent 6 years living at the Zen Center of Los Angeles, where he studied with Meizumi Kaizen Roshi and also Bernie Glassman and Genpo Murzel. Besides Japan, where he lived for 25 years, and the US, where he now lives, Paul has taught meditation in Russia, Spain, Mexico, and Canada. He holds an MA in Asian Studies from the University of California and did doctoral coursework in Buddhist Studies at UCLA. His publications include Flowers Fall, Penetrating Inquiries on the Shobogenzo Genjo Koan, an annotated translation with introduction of Yasutani Roshi's commentary on one of Zen's most important texts, as well as numerous articles on Buddhism and intercultural communication. Paul, we're very happy to have you with us this morning. Thank you for coming.
Please, thank you very much. Thank you to you and Ada for inviting me. Thank you everybody for coming. It's nice to see you here. I guess I'm going to have to face
him. Just speak up as loud as you can.
Okay. I guess I'll have to face in two directions. You know the image of the 11-headed Kannon that has faces going 11-faced Kannon facing in every direction. So I'll do my best. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Talking with Asian, we decided that the theme of One Dharma, Zen and the Four Foundations of Mindfulness would be a good topic. I did a retreat yesterday over at the Des Moines meditation group. We had a retreat on the theme of the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. This may be familiar to some of you, but maybe not all of you. And I'll mention a little bit more about it as we go. But in my studying that, I found that really there in the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, which is come from one of the sutras, the Anapanasati Sutta, mindfulness of breathing, discourse on the mindfulness of breathing of the Buddha. And it's my sense, and I've heard other people talking about it these days quite a lot. There's one teaching, and we're practicing in different schools and different styles and different traditions as it goes to different cultures. It's developed in different ways, but the central thread is so it's really one thread. And to put it in a nutshell, I think if you sit with Buddhist meditators, and maybe meditators from other traditions, but certainly people meditating in some Buddhist school, you find that you start to talk about the experiences you've had. Some people may have some experiences first and other ones later, and the order may be different. But you find out that people have a tremendous amount of common experience. So I think there's a thread that runs through it, which allows us to unfold those experiences, which are the experiences of really discovering our fundamental gifts that we're given and potentials that we have to unfold. So the thread that unlocks all that is the thread of letting go. And in the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, especially in this teaching of the Anapanasati Sutta, the mindfulness of breathing, that's laid out in terms of 4 different foundations or 4 different modes for establishing mindfulness. And those are awareness of the body, kaya anupasana, awareness of feeling, vedana, which is not the same as like angry, sad, happy, disappointed, not those kind of feelings, but simply a very clean sense of something is pleasant or unpleasant. We sometimes get in our busy minds very far away from our actual direct experience of things. And a lot of people are pursuing things in this world that are actually unpleasant experiences, but they're doing them to mask other more unpleasant experiences, or try to bury painful interactions or painful feelings that they have not learned to meet and deal with in a skillful way. So it's very important to recognize the pleasant from the unpleasant, and to recognize, your body knows it already, but are we recognizing the messages of the body? This is one gift of meditation. When we sit down and we start to meditate, our body gives us a lot of messages. One of the reasons why it's really good to wear nice, baggy, loose clothes. You wear skirts or robes. I used to have a nice black robe, not a monk's robe, but a lay robe we had at the Zen Center of Los Angeles. But I guess when I left there, I gave it to somebody there so they could do that thing. But they're very comfortable. It's really the best for sitting, because you're not restricting the body. You're not getting artificial messages, and therefore your body can start to give you the messages from inside. And as you sit and you calm the body, you calm the mind, you become much more open to those messages. So the first thing is to let the body calm down. Let the body, sit, focus on the breathing. See how the awareness naturally expands out to the whole body. Feel what's going on in your body. And if you really allow things to arise in your awareness, they tend to settle themselves. The tight knots tend to loosen. Sometimes it takes a long time. We have deep knots. We have deep conditioning. I remember when I was at the Zen Center of Los Angeles, there was a cook named Carl. And Carl, when he came, he would go in the Zendo and he'd sit like this. And gradually, over the course of a couple of years, his posture came to here and here and here and here and here until he was sitting straight. And, I think you could have worked at that with massage and deep tissue work and all kinds of things. But if the inner knots were not unbound, that loosening of the body, that expression of the inner being in the body is not going to come into an ease. So the second foundation is it's awareness of feeling. But the feelings are really conditioned by what we're doing with our head, with our, all the different kinds of impulses, emotions, thoughts, memories, internal dialogues, all of this stuff that goes on mental in the broad sense of the psyche. Those things are also often very dysregulated. And it's very useful for us to sit down, and after the body is settled especially, we start to notice the awareness expands out to the kind of broader mental space. And in that space, we start to notice, not in mental space that you don't have a body in where it's just in your head, but a broader field of awareness, which includes not only the body, but all of the mental activity. And as we observe what's going on with that mental activity, and just let each one come and go on its own, the way we're taught, of course, to do in Zazen. Comes up, let it go. Comes up, let it go. Come back, come back. Come back to your posture. So, as we do that, that also tends to release itself when we don't get wound up with it, when we don't twist ourselves up and start to feel we have to fix it and change it and do something with it. You just let it be. It tends to settle itself. And if need be, you can send it a message to some place in the body that's not letting go, or some place in the psyche that's repeated, stubborn, disturbing emotions, saying it's okay to calm down. It's okay to relax. Rest, calm, release. You send that message. When the body and the mind settle down, we can start to look, or when the body and the feelings, in this case, settle. All that sense of recognizing what's pleasant and unpleasant and releasing, so they can come into, really what we're doing in those first two groups it's broken up into 4 tetrads, so 4 different instructions. And in each of them, we're really setting the conditions for establishing a wholesome, peaceful state in the body and in the field. Then we come to the mind. And this is clearly that there's a lot of emphasis in Zen on awakening. And but that teaching is also enfolded into all of these things I'm saying, I would say, are definitely enfolded into the teaching of Zen. They're there. But sometimes, if they're not brought out very clearly in detail, maybe we don't recognize them. It takes us a longer time to notice and to pay attention and to be skillful with managing. So, at the same time, these powerful focus of awakening and of just clear, pure presence of shikantaza, just being, just sitting, that we have in Zen, is also that liberated mind, is also in this sutra. So first, when the body settles and the feeling settles, next we come to the place of noticing when those things settle down, that we're sitting in this very calm mind ground, really peaceful place. It's a good place to spend time. It's the ground for deeper awareness, deeper realization. And it's also a place that's tremendously healing. So if you settle the mind, settle the body, and settle the feelings down, that chance to just rest in a deep, peaceful stream of energy is very, very healing to the body and the mind. Many illnesses can be healed just doing that, and many mental illnesses and conditions can also be healed greatly just by going to that place and resting, because it's a very self-affirming place. If the idea of oneself arises in that space, it's the place of acceptance, of flow, of connectedness, and of deep peace. So it's a wonderful place to spend time, but we shouldn't stay there forever. These are the things your teachers can help you with. If we're going to go to further levels of awareness, of perception, of development, of awakening, then we need to, my teacher Namgyal Rinpoche says, first calm it down and then wake it up. So we need to energize the mind. And then we need, after that, to focus the mind again, deeper focus, really dropping away distraction. And then finally, liberating the mind. So this is, in a certain way, this thing's been really emphasized in Zen, is liberating the mind. But all these other pieces have to come, they have to be in there. They're just not parsed out in such detail. And this liberating the mind, when I teach this, when I'm teaching before, yes, I heard we're in the flight when I'm teaching on the 4 foundations, I often illustrate illustrate this idea of liberating the mind with the story of Bodhidharma. You know the story of Bodhidharma and Huayca, the second patriarch? It's this sitting product.
So go ahead and tell it.
All right, so Bodhidharma goes to China, brings Zen, has this wonderful meeting with the Emperor of China, Emperor Wu. Maybe I'll tell you that story too. I told it yesterday. Some of you will have to hear it again. Sorry. So he comes to China. The emperor hears that this great sage has come from India and invites him to come to the palace. And he goes there, and the emperor, is very happy to have this great holy man there, and says, "Oh, I'm so happy to meet you. I'm a great devoted Buddhist emperor. I have built so many temples, and I've built orphanages, and I've supported, I feed the poor, and I save lives, and I've built bridges for people so they don't have hardship, and I support thousands of monks, and built these temples that put them in. How much merit have I gained?" In Buddhism, there's this whole concept of gaining merit. You do good things, and it supports your practice. I mean, it's a very good concept, right? If you do meritorious, virtuous things, it supports you, which we know, because if you act from a pure state, you get a pure recompense. But fundamentally, as we've been reading, as we've been chanting in the sutras this morning, it's empty. Whatever it is, it's empty. So Bodhidharma says to the emperor, "No merit." The emperor is a little bit shocked and says, "Well, what, it's like he thinks there's merit, you're gaining merit, moving toward a holy goal, you're making progress there by doing good things and building up your virtue, your merit." And he says, "Well then, what's the highest holy truth?" And Bodhidharma says, "Everything's empty, nothing's holy." Now the emperor is really perplexed. He's like, "There's no holy. I thought we're on this holy path. We're on the path to the purity and holiness." And he says, "Well, you're supposed to be the great sage, the master of this. So what's going on here?" So he's going through all this. He says to the emperor, he says to Bodhidharma, "Well, then who are you?" Bodhidharma says, "I don't know," and leaves. And he goes and sits in front of a wall in a cave for 9 years. So then, of course, other people knew that he was there, and one person named Huayca later named Huayca, I guess, came to meet him, to see him and to learn from him, and said, "Oh, Master, please teach me." But Bodhidharma wasn't going to take on people he didn't think were really sincere. This is Zen tradition. If you go to, traditionally, if you want to enter a monastery in Japan, you go to the gate and you bow down and you wait 3 days out there. It's not like, "Hey, I want to practice." "Okay, come on." No, you go and you wait. You've got to show your sincerity and your determination. So Bodhidharma is looking for, somebody who's serious. So he says, "Go away. I'm meditating. Go away." So Huayca comes back a week later with his severed arm that he's chopped off and says to Bodhidharma, "This is my arm. I was offering to you to show my sincerity and my seriousness here." So Bodhidharma thinks, "Oh, this guy might be pretty serious. Let entertain this." So he's, "Okay, what do you want to know? What's the issue?" And Huayca says, "Well, I'm so disturbed. My mind is in turmoil. I can't find peace. I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. I just can't find peace. And my mind is so disturbed. Can you please help me pacify my mind?" So Bodhidharma says, "Okay, I'll do that. Please go home, reflect, bring me your mind, and I'll pacify it. So he goes home, wrestles with this for 3 weeks, searching for the mind. What is this mind? How can I show it, give it to him, present it to him? Seeking to something he can get a hold of, something he can grasp and present. Day after day, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. Finally, he comes back to Dharma and says, Master, I searched and I've searched and I've struggled and I've looked and I've assiduously and devotedly and continually searched, and I can't find any mind. And Bodhidharma says, there, I've pacified it for you. So, have you done this search? If you really want to make some progress in Zen, you really want to get the fruit, then this is the search. You'll do your homework. And, so the Buddha talking about the 4 foundations of mindfulness says it's a great fruit of great benefit. And then he says, how is it of great fruit, great benefit? And then he talks about all these different stages that have taken you through. And then after the liberating of the mind, then there's the process of deconditioning. Also, if you go in the Theravada tradition, there's a kind of 16-stage model of awakening, from generating, first interest, then going through all these different steps, getting on the path to the path, so to speak. It's like stage 4. And it goes through all these. There's a place where you feel like giving up, or where you gain a lot of insight. You say, good enough. I think it was a mat rolling stage. I think it might be the 9th stage. I forget exactly. Where it's like, I'm having a really pleasant experience here. I think I'll just roll up my mat and go, leave the monastery and go and, eat and drink and enjoy women and men and whatever. But that gets old. It doesn't last because it's all impermanent. So eventually, you're back to the path. Then you come to a change of lineage, a place where there's a kind of shift of your orientation, and then comes the awakening stage and the fruit of awakening. And then finally, after that, there's a stage which is the reflection on the work still to be done. And the reflection on the work still to be done is the observation of the conditioned patterning that you carry in this body and mind and nervous system, and recognizing that still has to be unknotted, unbound from your body and your mind. Or the habit body is so strong. So, in the last steps of the 4 foundations, the Buddha gives reflections on impermanence, and then maybe you notice when you're practicing that the things that pull on you really strongly are getting weaker. Do you have some addictions or fixations or things that when you're practicing, you're in the middle of a session or in the middle of a good meditation session, you notice that they don't pull on you so strongly, you feel more free, more unbound from those things? Is that not your experience? So that's fading away. And then there may come a time where, as you're practicing, in the course of your life through your practice, you see something somebody else got triggered by, and you say, oh yeah, that used to bother me, and you didn't even realize that it was gone for you. Right? And then, so this is the cessation of the fixation or of the attachment to the defilements. And then at a certain point, you say, okay, I get it. All these things I keep hankering after, all the things I really desired, they didn't really bring me any lasting satisfaction. They brought me temporary satisfaction. Then I was dissatisfied. Then I sought them again. Then I was satisfied. Then I was dissatisfied. and I'm on a treadmill. And now that I'm not attached to that thing anymore, I already feel quite content without it. I have it, it's fine. I don't have it, it's fine. The peace is already here. The peace is in me. It's an inner, it's an inside job, as they say. So when we come through those stages, reflecting, you reflect on impermanence, like the thing that you really love, and the person you're so attached to who left you. In 20 years, what's that going to mean? How are you going to feel about that relationship that you're really upset about now, 25 years from now? So it's going to be, okay, yeah, I remember. You're going to look back. There's going to be things that disturbed you a lot, that you were really angry. You're going to look back in 25 years, you're going to be laughing. Maybe with that same person saying, oh, remember we had that big fight? And all those things are fading, You think about what's it going to look like in 100 years when you're dead, that person's dead. Maybe there's a gravestone somewhere or a bowl of ashes somewhere. And people are saying, oh yeah, I wonder what that life of that ancestor of mine was like. What's it going to look like 1,000 years or 10,000 years out? So is the name even going to be remembered? It's the life of one more person on this continent in this flow of migration of human beings and all kinds of animals and insects and other beings around the globe. What's it going to look like in 1,000,000 years? What is the planet? There was a phase where human beings lived on the planet, and dinosaurs were there for a while. Other beings were there for woolly mammoths and saber-toothed tigers, and there was a human beings phase, and what's going on the earth. And if you put it in that perspective, it makes it much easier to remember that these things aren't something that we should be too attached to. So anyway, I just thought I would try to pull together a few of the threads of commonality. There's a lot more fun things to talk about, but I think I've probably overstepped my time already. Let me see if I have any more things I want to mention at the end. Let me just make one more fixed point. I think it's really great to practice according to a system and practice according to instructions and have the guidance, have a teacher you can go to. I don't know if you guys are doing some Doksan here. But to have a teacher you can go for interviews and get guidance and get clarification about experiences and have what direction to be pointed in. But we should remember that we're not following a formula. Fundamentally, meditation, in the end, is a huge exploration. There's pointers how to get by some of the things we tend to get stuck on, but the inherent endowment that we have, which is termed by Dogen Zenji and some of the sutras as a treasure house. There's so many things to unfold, so many potentials, things that we haven't even imagined yet. Gifts, artistic gifts, creative gifts, scientific gifts, humanistic gifts, gifts of love, gifts of sensitivity, gifts of psychic capacities, gifts of all kinds of things. I'm not saying you should chase those things. I'm just saying they unfold themselves out of the storehouse when you do real practice. And that's why we have this tradition. I remember Maizumi Roshi saying, all those things like levitating and flying through the air and hearing people at great distances and seeing what's going on in other, in Pennsylvania or wherever. Those things are, in Buddhism, they're called the small powers. The great power is the power to make your life go smoothly. So anyway, that's my wish for you for today, and thank you so much for sharing the space and giving me a chance to talk.
We kind of missed the opening chant, but let's go ahead and do the closing chant, and then we'll open up a little discussion.
Let's do that.
So
let's have some questions and answers.
Yeah.
May the paradise penetrate into each thing in all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha way. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Desires are inexhaustible.